Sister Victoria X here, and y'all know what time it is. We have to wrap up our conversation and our reading that we started this morning. Um, and as you all know, I shared with you that I had to go and leave the our meeting early, well, our reading earlier because I had a meeting to go to. So I might have to start my readings at 7 a.m. versus 7:30, which was the goal today, just so that my 8 a.m. meeting doesn't get interrupted, and our reading time together doesn't get interrupted either. I'm gonna go ahead and put some chapstick on because your girl looks looking kind of ashy, and I'm gonna tell y'all now. Okay, it's been a long day, and your sister is tired. So excuse the lint on my black shirt. I had a doctor's appointment today and I wore this beautiful like poncho, like yarned poncho that my husband got me. And so I made the mistake of wearing a black shirt underneath. And so now you can see all of the lint from that poncho that I had. So that's what's on my shirt. If you see that on my shirt, don't judge me. It's late. Well, it's 10:03 p.m. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the it hit my funny bone. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up the reading for chapter 14. Peace family, peace family. Thank you for tuning in. Um and then I don't know if I'm gonna merge these two on the YouTube or if I'm just gonna have them play back to back like that. Um but if you would like to get notified when I go live, text healthy hue all caps no space to 77948. And if you would like to see chapters 1 through 11, they are up on my YouTube for for Instagram. Go to sistervictoriax.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom and click the YouTube icon. And for Instagram, all the series are up on my page. So if you'd like to listen to those, they're up there. And Instagram has the benefit of being able to see 1 through 14 because they're all locked into a series. So if you're not following me on my Instagram, come follow me, Sister Victoria X at Instagram on Instagram. So, like always, this is what we do. We're going to go ahead and read through the rest of chapter 14. Um, and then we'll do the commentary at the end because, like I said before, I understand that everybody don't care about what I have to say. So, walaikum salam. I am. Um, so, we're going to get the commentary, and those that are here, so we're going to get to the reading, and those that are here for only for the reading, y'all can go ahead and jump off once we get into the commentary. So we're going to pick up. This is chapter 14, The Benefits of Being Alone, and this is part 2 of that chapter. In order to create, you must first be in control of yourself, then the environment. Self control cannot be developed without some private time. There is a universal law that some scholars call the law of self actualization. You were born to unfold a full potential of mind, body, emotion, and spirit. You are here to bring into fruition inner capabilities motivated from within and to place yourself in command of these resources. Why? Because the Creator gave you a unique set of abilities that He intends to utilize in His plan. You can live out all of your dreams. You don't have to live through someone else's life that you have seen on a screen or in a magazine. Pursuant to the law of self actualization, everything you imagine in the mind can come to pass if you approach it properly and enlist the support of God. There's another law requiring self denial, which is necessary to strengthen with will through relinquishing lower desires in order to attain spiritual power. An example of this fasting, the abstention from food for days or even weeks in order to allow the higher level of thought to communicate with your creator. Yet another law is that of self-direction, referring to a system which exists in our and functions without interference from you. Think about the cardiovascular system. Wouldn't it be terrible if you had to remember to make your heart beat 70 times a minute? Thanks to the wisdom and mercy of Allah God, you don't have to give it a thought. There is a law of function which mandates that every living, purposeful, vibratory frequency, intelligence in itself that guides it to its purpose. All of these laws and countless more emanate from the original plan of the Creator and ensure that His will is ultimately carried out. Minister Farrakhan has written, "We are engaged in the development of self, and we will each obtain what we individually strive for. Allah God has given us a man from among ourselves as a guide to show us the way. But in the end, our personal success will depend upon our personal effort. Clearly, you cannot ride on someone else's achievement and sense of self worth to find happiness. You are also responsible for your own salvation. The Holy Quran reads, Man can have nothing but what he strives for, and the ends of his striving will soon be seen. It is critical that you understand the importance of direction, control, and developing a personal agenda. It costs nothing to take a pen and paper and write an itinerary for the day, the week, the month, the year, the decade. Since you and I are not self created, we move according to someone's influence. If it is not God, who is it? And if you are not making your own agenda, whose agenda are you following? Instinct, or the innate ability to discern between right and wrong, is an attribute we all have. Instinct is a flow of intelligence. Motive Instinct is the flow of intelligent motivation that is often unrecognizable in the society we live in because we are so dependent upon technology and so distant from self-examination. But intuition is a higher degree of intelligence in us, which we need to work toward the overall divine plan. Intuition is responsive to our divine consciousness. It is aware of what is good or bad for our own particular structure and moves us to react accordingly. Intuition is in the male and the female, but it is a feminine attribute. The ability to directly perceive truth without thought. We need solitude to enhance this power. Finally, diving there is a diving law governing intent. Finally, there is a diving law governing intent. It is not merely what we do, it is the motivation behind what we do that determines the quality and outcome of the activity. It is immensely satisfying to plan to do a thing, then do it. In fact, the joy of knowing that you did what you said you were going to do is a unique sensation that has no substitute. Most important, keeping your word is the foundation of any and all relationships you will ever have with others. We all are in great need of discipline, and we tend to underestimate the role of self discipline and control in finding and nurturing a love relationship. Behavioral scientists have identified the most prominent mental disorders of the day. It is distraction. What is distraction? It is failing to do what you intended to do, then reacting in the extreme negative to another plan that you made, which is contrary to what you wanted to do. This condition is given the name epipsychic discontrol. In daily life, you know you are having this experience when your wife or husband or someone looks at you in bewilderment and asks, "Why are you tripping?" Or "What is wrong with you? You went totally off." Meanwhile, you are thinking, "I don't know why I did that." It is an episode of such poor control to realize you carried out a significant plan without clear and complete knowledge of self, so that in the end it does not feel deliberate or fully intended. When you engage in abrupt, precipitous acts based on primitive emotions like fear or rage or sensuous feelings like lust, without concern for effort or long term consequences to yourself or society, you are not in control, you are distracted. When you go in a bar or nightclub and take a stranger home for the night, that's not just something you decided to do. That is the product of a mental disorder. Yet it is considered acceptable behavior in this so-called modern society. There are many obstacles to the path toward perfection, but there is only one way to reach your destiny, to fulfill your divine purpose, and that is to struggle. Through deep humility, heartbreak, and tears, remember that every sorrow opens the doors to progress. When we let trials make us bitter and miserable, we close the door to opportunity. And he who receives all things with thankfulness shall be made glorious, and the things of this earth shall be added unto him, even in hundredfold year more. Allah God gave every one of us a glorious individual pattern. No two people are identical, even identical twins. Not two lives are exactly alike. Yet each life holds a great destiny rich in achievement and honor. As we live according to the principles of freedom, justice, and equality, we will eventually find happiness, first with self, then with someone else to share our life with. No one can live your life for you because only you have the key to your fulfillment. So that is the conclusion of chapter 14, the benefits of being alone. Now we're going to go ahead and go into the commentary portion of this. And if you are someone that is just tuning in with us and you have not heard chapters 1 through 13, if you are on my Instagram, they are in a series on my page. If you are on Facebook, chapters 1 through 11 are on my YouTube, and you can see those by going to sistervictoriax.com, scrolling all the way down to the bottom, and click the YouTube icon. And so earlier today, we read the first half of chapter 14. And so we read the last couple of pages tonight, and we're going to go ahead and get into the commentary. I'm going to welcome a couple of people to the stream. And look at this, y'all. Thank you for the conclusion of chapter 4. Praise be to Allah, Sister Robin. Every sorrow opens the door to success. Yes, ma'am. And then over here, we got um, charcoat scrub in the building, Sister Yashika in the building, Shantae nails. I need to do that review of those nails, sis. Sister Destiny in the building, Denise. Um, I think two Denises. Oh no, that's one. Trevor and Yashika. Walaikum salam, ma'am. Um, Brother Jason, Sister Carletta, thank you all for tuning in. Peace to you too, D8P Waters. And he said, where is that book available? So, Sister Ava, I'm not sure if she started back selling the physical copy of the book, but she had a few physical copies left, and um, I just happened to be one of the lucky ones to get one of the last physical copies, and also got a signature from her. I think it was in here. Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, sir. But I'm gonna pull up her website right now for you to see if you can get it on her website. And then she actually just dropped some nice books. So it's ministerava.com. And I believe let's scroll on down. See, look, I think she does. Oh no. So there's no more copies of the physical of this book. But if you go to ministerava.com, you'll be able to see that she has a digital version of this book. Um, oh, okay. I think it was my computer. So she does have the physical book available as well. So there you go. If you like digital, go get the digital. If you like physical, go get the physical. So the benefits of being alone. Now, I want to start off the commentary portion by just pointing out that like this is one of the most important things and the most important considerations when you have found yourself not with a partner and with a partner, right? We have to learn to find time to be with ourselves even when we're in a relationship, because there are certain parts of ourselves that we can only access when we're to ourselves, right? Because we know our inner thoughts, we know our inner feelings, and sometimes when we try to figure ourselves out in front of other people, we allow their judgments and their considerations and their opinions to change what we truly believe and think about ourselves. So even though this says the benefits of being alone, it's not talking about in the sense of being single. Walaikum salam, Sister Desire. Thank you. Good to know. Um, So it's not talking about alone in this only in the sense of not being connected with a partner. It's also talking about being alone in the sense of having time to yourself, having time to connect with yourself. Because even in a relationship, you need alone time. Because just like on the previous chapters, we touched about how unlikes and likes attract. And sometimes when we get so wrapped up in our relationships, we do end up losing the very unalikeness that attracted us to each other. And so we become so similar that it can always almost be looked as if we don't need each other anymore because all of our not goals have aligned because that's the goal, but we've become almost a mirror of one another, right? So if we're a mirror, how can we seek and look for perfection or fix the problems that we have with one another and ourselves? So that's the one thing that I really liked about this chapter. It didn't really emphasize on just being by yourself. It was just more so about sitting and having time with yourself. Um, and so the first thing that she talks about is absent the ability to deal effectively with yourself, you can never deal effectively with anyone else. And this goes back to self love and self accountability, right? We can never, even in self accountability, we can never hold ourselves accountable if we don't even know who we are as a person, right? And so when she's talking about like the way that we handle each other, like how I'm trying to verbalize this in the way that I see it in my head. How can we not how can we not be able to love someone who we know the inner workings, the inner thoughts, the inner feelings ourselves? How can we love someone else more than we're able to love ourselves when we know everything about ourselves? And not everything in the sense that we've completely learned all of our triggers and all that kind of stuff, but we know how we think, we know how we feel, we know how we move. And so, how can we not love ourselves who we have all this information on and claim to be able to love someone who we're still figuring out? Right? Because a lot of times we'll speculate and we will project feelings on other people, but we don't have the actual facts, right? We're not in their heads to know what they're thinking. We're not in their body to know what they're feeling. So I love that she started off by saying and making that point clear that we cannot say that we are being effective, loving, or caring to someone else if we have not figured out how to be all of those things for ourselves. There was a point in time in my marriage that for some reason like I would never verbalize it or I would never say it or think it, but I had become so trapped in the idea that my happiness was my husband's responsibility, right? I just felt like, when you're in a relationship with somebody, they're supposed to make you happy and da 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 da. But the truth of the matter is we have to learn how to make ourselves happy. And it goes back to what I was talking about yesterday about how my form of praise and connection to Allah was me singing, right? And so a lot of my happiness was wrapped up in my connection to Allah, which was me singing. But when I had stopped singing, right, which goes back to the point of needing time for self, when I had stopped singing, my connection with Allah went down, and so my happiness was now dependent on something external when before it was just dependent on my connection with Allah. And so we're going to move to the next point. Okay, and then she says, while we focus on the natural need to seek, find, and maintain harmonious relationships, we must realize there is such a thing as peace and contentment in the company of oneself, as long as you remain connected to God and know how to make His love a reality in your life. And that's the part that we often miss. Yes, ma'am, I had the same thoughts with my spouse. Yes, ma'am. And that part of that is because we are not properly prepared for marriage. We are just not properly prepared. Um, and that's like when we're by ourselves, that's the part that we forget. That's how we can sit in loneliness and feel alone and not have any outside connections behind ourselves when we don't have a spouse because we haven't properly built that connection with Allah God. And so when we have a connection, a relationship with God, yes, of course, there will be moments of loneliness. Just like when you're in a relationship with somebody else, you have moments of loneliness, moments of not feeling like someone understands you, moments of feeling like, it's just too hard to bear, of course. But when you're by yourself and you don't have a spouse, it's easier to feel lonely, discouraged, and searching for things outside of your relationship with him when you don't have a relationship with him. Because when you're in a relationship with someone, you spend time with them, right? You formulate, you learn their language, you talk to them regularly, right? And so if we spent time while we were by ourselves, separate of a spouse, if we actually spent time building the relationship with Allah, we wouldn't have time to feel lonely, right? Because we're always reading his words. We're always finding comfort in his words. We're praying, we're spending time with him. And so everything else, our lives are already busy. And so everything else outside of that wouldn't take as much would fill up the times where you're not seeking and strengthening that relationship. And I want to touch on this fear aspect where she was talking about fear is the first experience and emotion that we had coming into this world out of the womb. But hey, sister, whoo, girls, don't get me, sis. I completely beat Bianca. Bianca, I don't know. Tell me your name. I forgot. I know your name in my head, but I can't formulate the words. But I'm gonna let that go because I haven't quite developed a thought on that yet. But she goes in to say, when you master the art of being alone, it means you have reached the understanding that time alone is necessary for the growth and nourishment of your imagination. A lot of the times we desire people in our lives that we have not grown ourselves to be of benefit to them, right? We want somebody that got all this stuff together, got all this financial stability, got all of this material stability, perfect relationship with Allah God, and all of these things, right? But we haven't even qualified ourselves, spent enough times with ourselves to get that person, right? And it's the same thing within a marriage, within a relationship. We want and expect all of these things from our partners, but we have not qualified ourselves to be worthy of those things. So it's easy to have an expectation of someone else when um when it's external, right? It's easy to have an expectation. But when you start thinking and considering if you're even deserving of the action, the expectations kind of, I don't want to say lessen, but when you start focusing more on being the deserving party, when you start focusing more on being of service to your partner, then you don't have time to expect anything because you're working to make them happy. You're working to change the parts of yourself that do not encourage the person or parts in your partner that you want to come out. Um, and so I thought that was very important because alone time is absolutely necessary, and we have to become more focused on the deserving aspect versus the desiring aspect. Um, I thought it was interesting when she said we are also born with the ability and capacity to be alone for long periods of time. But we've gotten so spoiled. We've gotten so spoiled, especially nowadays with this whole social media. We got to be in contact with people, and it's not even in real life. Like the people that's really in our lives that we can touch and feel, we're okay with, you know, not seeing them all the time. But on this internet, Lord, we act like we can't put up a post. We be crying when people don't like it or people don't share it. It's like there's always this constant need of connection. But I mean, I won't say yes, ma'am. What do you need? Back up. Are you eating? Can I have this pen, please? You do not eat ink, baby. What's in your other hand? Okay. You want to go back downstairs with daddy? But I'm gonna take this pen though. Okay, go find a notebook and draw. But you're eating ink. You have ink all over your mouth. Okay. Well, take this and go get a notebook and draw. Close the door, please. She straight up just told me she's not eating ink, but her whole mouth is black from this pen. I must be blind. I've got to be blind, people. Um, yes, ma'am. Talk about that service, true talk. Yes, ma'am. And so, yes, I was just about to say we're alone in the womb, but we're not. So mm, let's get away from that point. Um, the life that you are and the life around us would not exist had it not been moved upon by force. That force is present today in you. Force is strength, energy, power, and intensity. It is something that comes as a result of activating the connection that allows you to access the mind of God. Creativity is not something you acquire in the traditional Western education system. It is something that transcends scholastic knowledge. Um, in the public school system, I truly believe that creativity is not encouraged. Now, I ain't been in school for some years, so y'all can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But when I was school, when I was in school, I don't remember having art class. Look at that ash. Oh, it's so tough on this little finger. I apologize, y'all. That's some ash right there. ASH. Okay, I'm not cursing. Um, but I don't remember creativity being encouraged. And if I'm being 100% honest, it almost reminds me of like even within our homes, sometimes as parents, we're the ones that discourage the creativity and the freedom to be creative, right? Because we're so protective of our children. But the difference between at school and at home is that there's a more direct and center form of education. So to a certain extent, there's a little bit more room for creativity. But it goes back to that fear that she was talking about, how fear is the first feeling that we have when we're born, because we're not welcomed, but we're entering into a new environment. And so it made me think about the connection between fear and creativity. Because in my mind, creativity is the lack of fear, because when you're in a creative space, you literally, in my head, like there are times where I used to be a doodler, and there's a freedom that comes with just being able to have a blank page and just draw things out, right? And so the creativity in my head eliminates fear, right? Because if you, like Sister Rachel, you do some amazingly beautiful designs on those nails. And I'm sure that, and you can bear witness that when you're in that creative space creating, there's nothing in your mind that, like, limitation isn't felt as much as when you're acting in other parts of your life, right? Like when you're drawing, or if you're a writer, when you're writing, all that matters is writing in that moment. Like you can just be writing and writing and writing. So creativity is a form of freedom. And it kind of like is a is a I don't know, a cheat code to fear. A cheat code to fear when you're able to just be creative and be in your mind and build like you build. You must know you possess the potential to be infinitely more powerful than you currently are, no matter what the circumstances surrounding your birth, right? You were planned and designed by Allah God, the creator and originator. It's so crazy how it's so easy for us to create reason as to why. Reason as to why we can't do X, Y, Z and put whatever goes there, right? When there are literally people that do not have what don't have arms but can do their makeup with their feet. Now imagine if they would I mean, the sister has a complete YouTube channel living her life, okay, with no arms. She does her hair with her feet. She drives her car with only her feet. She does her homework with only her feet. And imagine the ability that we have just being people with all forearms. But we will let the excuses up here stop our ability to move our extremities to do the things that we say that we want. So even if we were born in a situation where, some people could see it as a, um, what do they call it? Like a disability. Allah created you that way for a reason. She does take care of her babies, don't she? No, the one I'm talking about, she don't have no babies. But I can only imagine the excuses some of us would create would create not having, arms and having to take care of a child. But the way that we're created, like there's so many things, so many different ailments that people are born with that they get through. But most of the biggest ailment that we have as of right now is that our minds have been locked and limited, and we don't truly believe what we're capable of. Because partly in school, they only show us in captivity. So we're watching captivity. We're watching captivity 8 hours a day, and it captivates our mind. Now our minds are locked to seeing what the true and actuality of it. Instead of seeing people that built a country, right? We see people that were shackled. And it's fine to see that they were shackled, they were slaves. But don't negate the fact that you also see them doing the active parts of building what is around them. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes, that there's one that changes her baby's diapers, feeds, burps, baby. Peace Code Queen in the building. I didn't know you get late lessons from every now and then. If y'all want to get notified when I go live, text Healthy Hue, all caps, no space, to 77948. And you'll get a little text message when your girl go live. Let me see. Wow. Wow. She takes care of her babies. Facts. I have seen it. All praises due to Allah. Thank you. Absolutely. Freedom. Sister Rachel says she bear witness when she in her creative mode. Fear who? And so we are going to get into, she says, in fact, a growing fetus in the womb cannot distinguish between the feelings the mother has towards others and the feelings she has towards the fetus. Now, let me say this. This right here, this whole sentence, in fact, a growing fetus in the womb cannot distinguish between the feelings the mother has towards others and the feelings she has towards the fetus, is a whole word in itself. Because as mothers, sometimes we don't realize the importance and the grave responsibility that we have with that comes with the ability that we have to create, right? That's why it's important that you check your circle often. You check, it's just like the subconscious mind, right? The subconscious mind doesn't know what's real or what's fake. So when you are pregnant with a child, they don't know what's for them and what's not. All of it's for them because they feeling all of it. And so sometimes we forget, like, granted, a lot of us, we have children and it wasn't necessarily planned. We ain't sit down and say, oh, we're going to have this baby and da 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 da. But the truth of the matter is we do grown up things even when we're not supposed to be doing grown up things. So we always should be in preparation to be pregnant, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean taking prenatals and all the technical pregnancy stuff, right? That means checking the people that surround you, checking your spouse as far as their character, right? Because if you know that you with an ain't nothing person, also know that that ain't nothing person could be the father of your child. If you're around a whole bunch of people that's dream killers or yes men or women, how do you think that will affect you and your child if you were to become pregnant? And that's the same thing with physical pregnancy and I don't know what the correct term for it is, right? But when you're pregnant with an idea, right? It's the same thing. When you're pregnant with an idea, you only need winners in your circle, right? Because the idea is still developing. The idea is still developing. So it can't tell whether or not if you're upset, that if it's the idea or not. If you're around a bunch of people that always keep you in a negative mood, how you gonna birth an idea if you can't even have the freedom of creativity to be able to build on that dream, to be able to build on that idea? So I would say always be prepared to be pregnant, ladies, because it says right here, and you know it if you've ever been pregnant. Peace, Ken, thank you for tuning in. You know if you've ever been pregnant, you get upset and all of a sudden the baby moving around. You feeling sad, all of a sudden the baby moving around. So the first attachment we experience is as a fertilized egg, clinging to the wall of the womb, where our need to be made secure first manifests. She went to the door of death herself to deliver you. Whether she did it willingly or unwillingly, she served as an agent of the Creator Himself and brought you here. Now, yes, ma'am. Always, always. Even if you're preparing for a physical, even in preparation for a physical birth or a metaphysical birth, because we're always working on new things. We're always working on new ideas, right? And so, in order to be pregnant, you have to put yourself in an environment to birth what you're pregnant with. So even if you like, I ain't got no plan on being no mama to nobody's child, I hope you got a plan on for your life, a plan on doing for self, a business, something of my, you know what I mean? So it's not just physical. What was I saying, y'all? She went to, okay. So the other thing, I'm glad I read that part because I want to touch on this. The idea that your mother went to death's door to birth you and you playing small. She was literally seconds away from dying, right? And sometimes it's all in our heads. I don't know about those mothers that experienced that euphoric birth. That was definitely not my experience. But the thoughts, the pain that comes with birthing a child is and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the minister said it's worse than the pain that comes with death. So the fact that some of the births our parents had, some of our mothers hemorrhaged having us. Some of our mothers, um, we had to wait at home to come home from the hospital because they had to spend a month in a hospital after giving birth to us. Some of our mothers lost their uterus to give birth to us. Some of our mothers required blood transfusions to give birth to us. Now, how selfish is that? Even if you don't have a good relationship with your parent, how selfish of that is it for us to allow our gifts and talents to go to waste when someone literally went to death's door to create you? Well, not create you, but to bring you into creation. I'm saying that wrong, y'all. They literally went to death's door to bring you to reality, to bring you out of their womb, and you playing small. All these beautiful ideas that we have, and we'd rather waste them away when someone had to go to death's door in order to bring us into life. If you say your prayer, say out loud, I am going to resolve this situation, then go to bed, you will wake up with a solution or at least the first step towards the solution, which is a clear understanding of the problem. I really love that because I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that and I'm going to let y'all know that worked. Because I noticed that on times when I'm not can y'all hear me? On times when I don't, you know, when I cut my social media down and I read before bed, I have a much better sleep. So I'm excited to see what that is going to do for me. If they go through all, why can't they act right? Why they still find reasons to be compatible with you? Well, um, the ability to give birth does not mean you have the skills to produce life. Some of us as parents just have a dead mindset. And so you can give birth to a child, but you haven't learned how to speak life into them because you weren't taught. Those same parents that we're upset with and we can't, they can't seem to act right, and how could they treat me this way, and all of the things that we come up with, right? I wouldn't say an estranged relationship with my mom, but I mean, we don't talk. We might talk once every 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months, a year might go by. um but all of those things were taught to them. So a lot of times we will hold them accountable for things and that they just don't know, things that they don't understand. Like now, I used to be so upset about my mom. Um, I used to be so upset with my mom because I just felt like we didn't experience enough. We were always at home. We didn't have sleepovers. We didn't go to nobody's house. We were just so sheltered. But I mean, coming from where I came from, I wasn't in the middle of the jungles, but I had to walk to school every day, and I had to walk through the jungles in LA. If you know, you know. I had to walk through the jungles to get to school, and a lot of the people that were around us weren't too good. So yeah, I felt like I was missing out on something, but was I really? Yes, I felt like my mother could have loved us more, hugged us more, told us she loved us more. Ma'am, get out this camera first of all. What do you need? Baby, you walked all the way up here when you sitting next to your dad downstairs. Go ask daddy. Close the door, please. Right? And so, I mean, but my grandma wasn't a lovey person, if I'm being honest. My grandma was hard, tough as nails. Not to her grandbabies, of course, but she was though. I mean, I remember one time my grandma hit me with a suitcase, Lord. But you know what I mean? Like, how can we expect them to do things that they don't know, or not do things if that's all they know? And people don't understand or know it's wrong because that's all they knew. So if so, my whole life has been wrong. That's a tough realization to come up with. Yes, them jungles back in the day, boy, you got out though. I had one grandma like that too. Yes, ma'am. The jungles was a place. The jungles was a place. The point is that you have to develop the discipline to follow the laws of evolution to be successful in your own life before you connect to the life of another, because the same principle will apply to marriage. It's our own expectations as children that can cause the friction in relationship too. Yes, ma'am. Yes, those expectations will get you. Those expectations, yes, ma'am, they do more hurt than good. Because expectations means that you're focusing more on external and not internal. So instead of expecting, we should strive to be deserving of the things that we expect. And I know my phone is on 5%. Life is hard, girl. Life is real hard. Life is very hard. But that without pain, we can't get to the promise because then we'll take it for granted. That's how we are. If we get something too easy, baby, we finna tear that thing down if we get it too easy. But sometimes we gotta put in a little bit of work, go through a little pain, and then once we get to the promise, it's like butter, baby. I'm on 4% on my phone, y'all. So I'm gonna wrap it up with the last thing that she said. When we let trials make us bitter and miserable, we close the door to opportunity. Trials are not here to break you, they are meant to build you. So it's gonna hurt. It's gonna feel like, why me? It's gonna feel like I'm the only one, but it's not true. And the truth of the matter is that sometimes your sacrifice in getting through the trial is necessary to bring other people through the trial, because the other blueprints in the world don't fit them. They need your blueprint to get through it. Some people can't understand what other, because the first thing that we try to do is look at all of the ways that that ain't us. Oh, well, she had this opportunity. She had this opportunity. But guess what? You didn't. So Allah has to put you through some things so that you can get through them, so that you can say, here's the blueprint. I didn't have no opportunities. I didn't have no extra money. I got it out the mud. Now there's no excuse. It's a proven concept, because you can't say that you can't, because our lives are similar. I was thinking earlier, we don't know our parents as individuals. We only see them as disciplinarians. Yes. We do not know them as individuals. So if you would like to get updated and know when I go live, text healthy hue to all caps, no spaces, 77948. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here so I can save this live before it deletes. I appreciate y'all, and I'm grateful to y'all for rocking out with your sister. We will be back here on tomorrow morning to read chapter 15, which is the original Prince Charming and his princess. Peace, family. Talk to you soon. Where's my mouse?